Parapsychology Today, a program of investigation into the realms of the unknown. Suspend your mind for a moment and journey to a world beyond the five senses. Parapsychology Today is a program exploring ideas, theories, and concepts that have been around since ancient times. We'll journey to outer worlds and inner worlds. We'll look into such phenomena as past lives, UFOs, and hauntings. And we'll explore psychic ability as it relates to human potential. We do not intend to prove or persuade, but rather present theories and personal stories of ventures into the world of parapsychology. Whatever your beliefs, we hope this program will start you thinking about a reality beyond the five senses.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Parapsychology Today. I'm your host, Pauline Nortness. We have a great topic today. You may or may not have heard of the Mandela effect. We're going to talk about the Mandela effect and why it may be the most important topic for these times. And my guests today, I have two wonderful guests. I have Cynthia Sue Larson, who will tell us a little bit about herself because she's got such an incredible background, and then Jan Engels-Smith. Thank you both for joining me today for this wonderful topic. Now, Cynthia, give us some background first so we can establish your credibility.
Okay. Well, I've got a degree in physics from UC Berkeley, so that's pretty good. And also an MBA degree from with a focus in information systems. So I worked in the corporate world, Citibank, doing project management primarily, working with information security and all sorts of good stuff. So, but then you may wonder, why am I on this show? And it has nothing to do with any of that exactly. It's because what happened next is I became quite interested. I've had a lifelong interest in consciousness. For me, the physics degree was a gateway into consciousness. It was the closest I could get to the topic that was offered at UC Berkeley. I also took a lot of psychology classes because I could feel that there's definitely something happening between our minds and the physical world all around us. And I wanted to explore that. And with that intention and a lifelong wish of how good can it get for everyone. Ever since I was about 10, I blow up my birthday candles and I just wish the best for everyone. So with that kind of thing going on, then I had a Kundalini awakening that just knocked my socks off. And that was when I was 32. It took 5 years to process. And then I started a website, realityshifters.com, dedicated to taking firsthand reports from people around the world. I knew I wasn't the only one witnessing things appearing, disappearing, transforming, and transporting, and changes in the way we experience time. So at the heart of all of that, I've been writing books about reality shifts, quantum jumps, and recently the Mandela effect and its society, how we're awakening from me to we. So
You've been involved in the Mandela effect for years, haven't you?
Before it was the Mandela effect, I was involved in it, yes.
Wow. And you're in charge of, you've got a title, you're in charge of something on Mandela?
Right. Okay. I am the one of the founders and the first president of the International Mandela Effect Conference. And we have monthly live streams on YouTube. The website is imec.world. And sometimes we have in-person live conferences. We've had one in Connecticut in 2023, one in Nashville, Tennessee in 2024, and may not do one this year. We do them as often as we can. We're just a small nonprofit, so we're doing the best we can.
Have you got that book handy, the one on Mandela effect?
Because, this is the new book.
Yes, I want to mention that Jan Engels-Smith, who's our guest, she's mentioned in that book, right? Or
yes.
The other book, yes. Hey, Jan,
yes.
Don't you know you're famous? You're mentioned in Cynthia's book. Now, this Jan Engels-Smith is going to tell us a little bit about herself, and then we're going to get onto the topic. Go ahead, Jan, tell us your background.
Sure. I started off as in the science fields. I had degrees in biology and chemistry. And then I taught science for about 10 years at high school level, and then got into psychotherapy and was in private practice, and then had a spiritual awakening also where it changed my life on a dime. Took me several years to figure out what had happened, but it definitely moved me into the world of shamanism, which is definitely my path as a shamanic practitioner, specializing mostly in soul retrieval. I've done over 3,500 of them, which is quite a few, considering you're working with one person at a time, about 7 hours a piece.
Wow.
But anyway, that has led me into this vast world of what I would say the quantum world. It is under the name of shamanism, but Cynthia Sue and I speak the same language when it comes to understanding how things work. She's approaching it from that physics world, quantum physics, and I'm approaching it from shamanism. But it's beautiful, and I respect her work and what she's doing, because it's giving credibility through the lens of science to something that has really been around since the beginning of time. We've taken a back seat to our understanding of life and how things work, and I think we're making some great progress now because of the studies that are coming out and the validation and qualification, qualifying the things that are happening to people so that they can actually understand that it's not woo-woo. These are properties of being human.
What is the Mandela effect, Cynthia? Can you explain what is it?
Yeah, the name came from Nelson Mandela. Some people think, is this the Mandala effect? And it's not a mandala. That's the circular art piece to meditate on.
Oh.
This is Mandela, Nelson Mandela, and a lot of people back in the 1980s have a collective alternate memory from the official history right now. And I include myself in this, our alternate memory consists of Nelson Mandela having died in the 1980s. He's not the only one that I remember died and then came back to life and was alive again, but he was one of several. I also noticed Larry Hagman, the actor from I Dream of Jeannie, and he was also on Dallas. So for me, a whole bunch of people died and were alive again, and I was tracking that on my Reality Shifters website. But for the collective public, including Art Bell, who had at that time, he was the king of late night radio, and he had a bunch of people contacting him with faxes and telephone calls and letters saying, wait a minute, I remember Nelson Mandela died and now he's alive again? What's going on, Art? What's happening? And so Art Bell, I'm giving him some credit here. He's not the one that came up with the name, the Mandela effect. That would go to a woman who went to a Dragon Con conference. That's Fiona Broom. And she was talking with people, I don't know, just sort of backstage or something, just saying, don't you remember Nelson Mandela he died, and isn't it weird that he's alive again? And so she coins the term Mandela effect, and that was in the mid 2000s. So we've now had 20 years of that, and every year more and more people are starting to notice that product names are changing. Book names like Berenstain Bears are now the Berenstain Bears, and have always been that. Kit Kat never had a hyphen. Just all sorts of things, songs that you would sing along with, like It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Mr. Rogers' song. That's not what the song ever was. It's not Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the fairest of them all. It's something else. So it's just like one thing after another. And so as people come into this, and there's usually, they'll be saying like, well, that doesn't affect me. And then something will definitely hit them and feel like, okay, wait a minute. Now that one gets me, and that can't have changed. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I know a woman that, Liz Larson, she said that she used to design and decorate cakes. And so she would work with the Fruit of the Loom cornucopia when it came to Thanksgiving time. So she could do the proper Thanksgiving cornucopia basket for, Thanksgiving on the cake. Now the Fruit of the Loom logo never had a cornucopia basket. So for her, it's like, oh, that's a showstopper.
What's causing these Mandela effects? Do you know?
Yeah, it's gets into the heart of the nature of reality, which has to do with we are creating reality, and who we really are is not the physical body, it's our consciousness. So I know I went through that pretty fast, but to me, that's like in a nutshell, and physics will back this up to the degree physics can. And then we're also face to face with the idea that maybe we're evolving at this point in time. Maybe as the world seems to get crazier and crazier, collectively, we're now increasingly more capable of collectively changing reality in miraculous ways really quickly.
The different timelines too, maybe people are on different timelines and they
Yes. So the cover of this book is showing Wigner bubbles or reality bubbles. So you might notice sometimes you're talking to someone and it's like all their facts are completely different than yours. Maybe they remember childhood differently. Maybe you might say, oh, it's political. Okay, maybe. But for whatever reason, all their facts and all their memories are just so different. It's like they're in a different world. And that's been now experimentally proven from some research physics results from a study that was published in 2019. It was a collaborative project between scientists at the University of Edinburgh, Scotland, and Vienna, Austria. And they were doing an experiment basically based on the double slit experiment, using 6 entangled photons and 2 observational devices at the same place at the same time. And Eugene Wigner would say, you can do this and you might get 2 different answers. And they got 2 different results, 2 different observations. So that's exactly what we're seeing. You can have 2 observers at a certain scene and get completely different reports of what happened. And physics will say, of course, because objective reality is just something we've imagined, but it's not necessarily the ultimate truth.
Now, before we were preparing for this interview, we mentioned something about multiple personalities. What does it have to do with the Mandela effect? And Jen?
Yes. Okay, I invited, I'm so glad you introduced us. I don't know what year you introduced the 2 of us, Pauline, but thank
Jen
you.
was in your book.
I know. And so I invited Jan Engels-Smith to come and give a talk in 2020 to our first International Mandela Effect Conference online. And part of the reason I really wanted her to be there is to talk about exactly this, because with her background, I was flabbergasted. Like, you're kidding. You worked with people who had split personalities and you witnessed that they may have been in 2 different realities or more. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So take it away, Jan.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Take it away, Jan. Your turn.
When I was working with them, I was quite young. I was in my 20s and I had no shamanic experience whatsoever. I was a psychotherapist and working in a disassociative ward in the hospital. The head of the department was a man that was from Africa, and he was doing a lot of leading edge therapies with people that caught the media attention, which was very exciting. So we were filmed for television and the news and things with some of the things that were going on. But we would have people like this one man, I'll never forget, he was diagnosed as being cerebral palsy. So when you're cerebral palsy, you have deformities in your bones and in your muscles where things are crippled. And we had a doctor come in and do measurements on his structure, his arms and legs, and qualified that this man, has these deformities. There's no way that he would be able to get out of a wheelchair or anything like that. So we then had him switch personalities. And as soon as he switched into the different personality, he looked like a young athlete sitting in the chair. I mean, it was just like, whoa, it was magical. It looked like a stage show, it was magical, although it was not. Another man was blind. He had that blue film over his eyes. Again, he was had a doctor take a look at him and qualified, yes, he is definitely blind. Changed personalities, completely sighted.
Amazing.
So this, it was awe. Your mouth would drop down. You'd be awestruck with what was going on. But as a young woman, what this did for me was I realized that healing can be instantaneous. And now, where I am in this phase of my life, it's because you're moving into a different version of yourself. Every version of you exists. If you can imagine it, it's there. It's in your consciousness. So every version of you exists, and you can move from one version into another, like in this better form, smarter, more talented, different weight, different whatever you want. But the trick is that when these people that were multiples were moving from form to form, they had no memory of the other form. In fact, a lot of people live being multiple, not knowing that they're multiple. They start getting little glimpses, and that's when we get them in the hospitals, or they do something that was harmful or something like that. They end up in the hospitals, but they have no memory of being this other version. Where when you and I are trying to move into a greater version of ourselves, you know, I'm in that version that I've got the great job. And then you look at your computer waiting for the interview results, it's not there. That memory or that instant takes you back into the old version. It's always a culprit there of making you move into the older version of yourself, or the disappointed version of yourself. We are people of habits also, and our habits keep us very locked into the patterns of our realities. But going back to the question, this early experience then provided me the awareness that people can heal instantaneously. And it's part of our belief system then that holds us captive to not. I have one other example, if that's okay, if I share one more.
Of course.
My daughter, when she was 11, was going down a hill. We live on a very steep hill, on a bike that was not hers, that she didn't realize didn't have any brakes. And so she was going down this hill, she hit a curb and she went into a dive position, which broke both arms in 5 places. It's like they did an accordion thing going up. It was a very stressful night where, you know, do we have to put in pins and all this kind of stuff? But the doctor said, I think I can set these bones, but it's precarious. She's going to have to be casted and cannot even be bumped. Because if she gets jostled at all, it might make the bones move. Well, I started doing shamanic work on her daily, and on her bones, on her muscles, on her tissue. And we went to the doctors a week later to have another set of x-rays, and we could only find 1 break.
Nice.
Healed.
Love it.
In 1 week. Now, in the United States, we have a belief system that it takes 12 weeks for your bones to heal. So that belief system overrides a lot of realities. Now, my daughter didn't have that belief system. She's only 11. You know,
Right.
The x-ray technician actually became a student of mine. What happened? You know, and yeah, and so all of these things are compounding to make me realize that we have this ability as creator beings on this planet to create the reality that we want to be in. And so that's my story with that.
I love it. I've got, this is my book, Quantum Jumps, and I talk about a story in here about my friend Susan, who just started a new job, and then she was jumping from boulder to boulder and broke her leg. And so she was on the phone with me, and she'd seen me previously months earlier. We had lunch together, and she observed something I was trying to do secretly. I just put my hand over a cut wound, and it completely went away. I was just hoping she wasn't watching, because it was just me, no problem. But she observed it, and she said, what were you doing, and how did that cut go away? So I said, oh. Anyway, so on the phone with her, she's got a brand new job. She's supposed to report Monday. It's the weekend, and she's broken her leg. And so she's on the phone with me saying, like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I said, do you remember when I put my hand over my cut injury, it was a gash on my arm, and it healed? She said, yes. I said, well, we can do that right now on the phone. because she'd had it set in a cast, and she was just really hurt. It was a big mess, all sorts of reasons why, you can imagine. But as we were talking, she said, it feels itchy on the inside. I said, oh, that's so good, because that's a sign of healing. So anyway, long story short, her x-ray folks were very confused, because it was just a big mad mess with a new job and not being able to find what had happened to the broken leg that then now is not broken. So why did you need treatment? It got very confusing, but it was kind of fun. And so when we know, that's the point of doing these shows, Pauline, and thank you for doing them, because when people hear this and they hear that we're not crazy, Jan and I, we've been through these experiences multiple times. And what we're talking about is that we are capable as humans of literally jumping into another reality. And the Mandela effect is just that collective alternate memory. And so when you were saying earlier before the show that this is about memory, I think that's so key, memory. So what the people remember when they're in those different personalities, they have such certainty, such confidence in the reality, the timeline that they're in, that they feel practiced at it. And then it's remarkable for those of us observing that film over the eyes is gone. Like, how can that be? But you saw it. You were in your 20s. You hadn't even started the shamanic path yet. And wow. So this stuff is quite real. And it's not just us seeing it. More and more of us are witnessing it now.
And when you said about those people with multiple personalities, they didn't remember, but you said you tried it, but you can remember, and it drags you back to the old one. How do you manage not to get dragged back so that you can be in that new self?
Yeah, well, I could go first and Jan can add to it. For me, this is like the flip-flop. It's called, in my book about the Mandela effect, I've got a whole chapter with the colloquial expressions, and that would be a flip-flop, because you're going back and forth. Like we had a dog with cataracts, and then he didn't have, I observed that. He was old, and I was like, oh gosh, he's got cataracts. The film on the eyes, oh no. So I just thought, no. So lots of love to the dog. Yeah. He's better. Like, good. And then my daughter came to me and said, oh, Mom, bad news about the dog. And I said, is it his eyes? She said, yes. I said, okay, here's what we do. It looks like cataracts. You just send him love, and then it goes away. She's like, oh, okay. And then my husband came to me. It was like one at a time. Bad news about the dog. Is it his eyes? I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing. It was serious. But then I would say the same thing again. And once we were all on track, no more problem. And none of us ever observed that flip-flop. So that was very interesting for me, looking at this whole phenomenon. Now, if you have a group healing, like a community might do a healing for a group, then everyone can join in at the same time. That would be good. And you don't need, but it was fun to see it individually too. So the flip-flop is what I'm looking at. But from the physics side of view, what is that? It's like these are different states. So like you can have one quantum state, or you can have another. So you can have a group of electrons or photons that are configured one way, and then they can switch to another. They can instantly, and they will switch simultaneously when they're entangled. And so it gives you this amazing capacity for macroscopic changes to happen at a cosmic scale. I'm not kidding you. And I have had talks with cosmic astronomical scale physicists who are working with relativity and that kind of thing. And they believe what I'm saying. Now, this may be off the record, and right now this is not something a lot of people are going to step forward and say, yes, but they have asked me for the book. They do want to know what's going on and how can I influence a coin flip, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of interest in this, a lot, and it's growing, thank goodness.
Do you want to add to that, Jan? Or
my approach to things is always going to be from a psychological, a healing, how a person becomes better. And when they are struggling with that flip-flop, we go through routines of them declaring, because declaration, I think, is another very potent way to move into different realities. So I declare myself in this reality. And then they do something that's different, like they hang their towel on a different hook, or they plug their cell phone in a different place, because our body, our minds are so habitually programmed that you need something to shake up the program to put in a new one. And changing a habit is one of the ways that you can do that. And so it is a practice that people start with the new version of me. And I always tell folks that when you're really working on this self stuff, it's like learning a new language. You keep doing things over and over rotely, just like you would a new language. And eventually the subconscious gets it and you start dreaming in the new language. And then the mind gets it and you start thinking. You're not translating anymore. You're thinking in the new language. So they have to learn the new language of possibility. And that's what I teach them, the possibility language, the love language, the I can language. And so it's approaching it from a different, I'm not doing scientific studies, which we need. And that's what Cynthia is so great with. She's doing those studies. Mine are personal stories of improvement in people's lives.
I also do work one-on-one with people as a spiritual life coach. But I don't usually share those stories unless they give permission or something, obviously, because it's private.
Sure.
But it's so interesting.
So do you also do the habits then? Do you have them change habits?
What I'll do is a blind reading before each session. So I'm trusting, I shut down the analytical left rational brain before the session. And without looking to see who I'm working with, then I'll do a reading on how is that person feeling and what do they need at the level of high self, which is like crown and third eye energy centers, neurons in the brain, middle self, throat, heart, solar plexus, low self, lower two chakras and neurons in the gut. And then what I get is really interesting. It goes outside of time. It's very nonlinear, and it's very, it's in language for me, but now I just hit send as an email before the session starts. And then we start with what I like to know, what are the signs and signals they're receiving, because I'm looking for the connection that they already have. Sure. And we take it from wherever that is, even though they may have thought today we're doing such and such, and I may have thought something, but I would always put first priority on how are they feeling and what do they need that I can best assist with today. Right. And the dialogue that happens is mind blowing. I mean, off the hook stuff. So it's basically like remote viewing into their life. With new clients, you can see the value of it, and they can too. And I mean, weirds, I know now, trust the weird. If a walrus waddles into my blind reading, the walrus goes in there. And at first it'd be like, I can't mention a walrus, but now I do. I mention the walrus, and then the person, she's like, oh, and then she turns around and she grabs a stuffed walrus and brings it to the camera. And she says, this is my spirit animal. I'm like, you're kidding me.
Now you mentioned something, remote viewing. Can you explain what remote viewing is? Because
I'm not doing a standard remote viewing practice. A standard scientific remote viewing would be two people are used. Oh, I'm playing the role of two people.
Okay.
Can you do it? Yes, you can do it. So what I'm doing, the blind reading, I have a target. So if in a proper remote viewing, it's like telepathy. So you know that you can operate out, you can see anything, anywhere, anytime. There's no constraint. We can all do that. So it's an awareness that you can do it. You have a target. The reason it usually takes two people is one of them has the target. And then they just have it in the envelope, and then they give you a number or something, an identifier. Like you don't know which envelope they have or what's going on. So it's totally blind. For me, it's totally blind because I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't look at that part just yet. It's like, okay, I'm doing a blind reading here. So you got the target. And then in my process, maybe I'll start with the remote viewing process. The regular remote viewing process would be, there's a target. They go into, do whatever they do to shut down their left brain. You got to do that. Remember, the left brain can be very interfering. It's got we think we know what we're doing with a rational analytical mind. It interferes constantly. And so if you're doing shamanic work, you're chanting, you're drumming, there are all these modes of
getting rid of it.
Yeah. Hundreds of ways to do it. So you just use whatever way you want to do to shut that down. And then this is where it gets cool. For me, I go through a double stage process. So that's what I mean by I'm playing the role of two people. I'll first get a whole bunch of things that don't make any sense. It's like reading tea leaves. They're words, but they seem very disjointed. Like the walrus might waddle in, anything. It might be something that comes to mind. I might use stichomancy. It's like whatever I'm feeling guided to do. And I'm keeping my left brain occupied with whatever activity it wants to do to be helpful, but it's not doing this for sure. It's not doing this. And so then I'll just be like playing a game is great, play a game and then get all these words, a list of words. And then the last piece is, so what I did with the words is like what a remote viewer would do. They have a piece of paper, usually they're sketching and they're drawing something. And so they'll get like an impression visually and they'll sketch it and they'll put notes and stuff. And the third part, this last part is where I bring it all together. It's like dream analysis. So it's very much a dream analysis process. I'm now looking at this huge, it's not a narrative, it's disjointed tea leaves of words, all rubbish, jumbles of leaves. But suddenly I can see through, I can feel it. I'm getting into a theta state of brainwave and I'm seeing through the words and I might get something that's not even those words at all, but I know it's right. I'm like, oh, I got it. And like, where did that come from? It came through. It's like gazing into a crystal ball, gazing into a flame. So I'm getting that, and then I know it's right. And the weirder, probably the more accurate, even though it's like I can't say about the walrus. Like, no, put the walrus in there.
No, I just thought of something. People are going to be watching this. They're going to have their left brain and going to think, "Wow, I can't." Maybe that's why I haven't been able to keep up with both of you because my left brain is working too much. But we're almost done with this interview. But I want to say now the Mandela effect. So why is it so important nowadays to know about the Mandela effect? And how can we know that if we are experiencing different timelines? Why is this so important, the Mandela effect at this time?
Yes, it's to me, it goes hand in hand with what it's showing us what it's doing. Actually, it's showing us that we have collective alternate memories. It's showing us that there's another possible past, that we can actually hope for the past and we can change it. We've seen evidence of it just today. We've heard about this, that people who have these split personalities are literally walking between different realities. And
so can make the world better? Is that why the Mandela effect is so important? Because we can make the world better?
Yes, yes. We're seeing the return of extinct species. You hear on TV and the newspaper, animals are dying, plants are dying. They're also coming back. And that was prophesized that this would be happening. We're seeing changes and improvements in our physical bodies. We're seeing changes to geography, to everything. There's no area that the Mandela effect does not touch. We're basically able to change all of reality collectively. That means any problem can be solved through consciousness and through this.
Have you heard of Lynn McTaggart? Have you heard of Lynn McTaggart? She does it.
Yes.
I really like her. She does it. She gets a group of people together and they just focus on one thing and they actually change the reality of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah, that's great. And any last words, Cynthia, and then Jan, before we end?
Imagination is everything. We're creating from it. So keep asking the questions that you most want to live the answer to. And my favorite question, if you don't know what to ask, just add, or you can add it to your question. How good can it get?
I like that. Very positive. And Jan?
Yes, I would say imagination, what the spirits say is it's a creation energy. It's and we've given it a bad word, a bad name by saying you're making it up, and you're going, no, you're just creating.
That's great. That's great.
It's your superpower. They actually said you have a superpower right in front of you that you're not using. I said, what's that? Your imagination.
Yeah. Well, I hope people get this because you guys are great. Like I said, I'm too much in my left brain because it's going way over my, but I'm catching most of it. I really am. And I just love it. It's so positive. I just think we need positivity in the world today. Don't you think so? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, bless you both again. And thank you so much for doing the show with me. I appreciate it.
Love you so much. Thank
you.
you.
You too. Hope to see you both again sometime soon.
Good. Yes.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I want to say goodbye to the viewing audience. Hope you enjoyed the show today. It might have been a little over your head. It was over mine a bit. But anyway, we'd like to know if you like the show and if you'd like to see some other topics, please let us know. Contact us. Even if you'd like to be a guest, please let us know and what your topic is. You kind of know where we are. We don't want to have, just regular stuff. We want something out there. So just contact us at parapsychologytoday24@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. See you again next time. Bye-bye.
That was great.